Hello. I'm Pau, and in this video, I'm bringing you a really interesting case. A girl on TikTok suggested I cover this case. I'll put her username here if I can find it. Thanks for the suggestion, and seriously, this case is pretty shocking. It's a bit intense, so I'm warning you now. If you're a little sensitive to certain details, it's better if you don't watch this video. Either way, I won't be too explicit. And since it's Mexican History Month, I wanted to do a Mexican case, so if you know of any other Mexican cases, let me know in the comments, and I can cover them too. And even if it's not from Mexico, I'd still love for you to leave suggestions. For example, you could write Argentina, and then the name of a case or cases from other countries, and that way we can cover more Latin American cases, which a lot of you have been asking for, and I'd be happy to do them. Thank you so much for watching the videos, and now let's get started with this one. On July 19th, 1971, in the Justo Sierra neighborhood in Mexico City, a man went to dump some trash in a vacant lot where it was common for different people to leave their garbage. However, this day was different. The man noticed such a strong, unpleasant smell that it was hard for him to breathe. He thought maybe it was a dead animal, since there was a farm nearby and sometimes they would dump waste in this empty lot. The man saw a large sack, which was where the strong smell was coming from. He decided to get closer and used a broom to try to open the sack to see what was inside. At that moment, two housewives who were nearby came over to see what was going on, since even from where they were, they could smell the unpleasant odor. The man realized that the sack was sewn shut and that it wouldn't be possible to open it with the broom. He also didn't want to get too close to the sack because it really gave off a terrible smell. So he decided to leave the area and called the police because he had a bad feeling about it. When the police arrived, they started inspecting the area and, covering their noses, managed to open the sack. As soon as they opened it, green flies flew out. The first thing they saw was a human foot with a blue sock. When they opened the sack further, they found the legs, which had been cut off from the torso. They also found the torso and arms, but they couldn't find the head of the body. They secured the area and searched through the trash to see if they could find the victim's head. However, they weren't able to find it. To try to identify the person's body, they took his fingerprints and tried to make a physical description. The body belonged to a tall, light brown-skinned, heavyset man. They also looked to see if he had any distinguishing marks that could help them identify him. They took the remains by ambulance to the medical examiner, and thanks to the fingerprints, they were able to identify him. The man was 53 years old and worked as a barber. However, they didn't know his real name since he was always changing it. But he used to go by different combinations of the same first and last names, like Pablo Diaz Ramirez, Pablo Diaz Gallegos, Rafael Diaz Ramirez, and so on. It was easy to identify him because his fingerprints were on file with the police since he had a criminal record. Some information about this man is that he only studied up to 3rd grade in elementary school, and he liked boxing and wrestling. The forensic report stated that the murder weapons were a hacksaw, an axe, and a knife. According to the report, his legs were cut off while he was still alive. And it's believed that 2 people were involved in this crime. After identifying the victim, the police contacted his wife, whose name was María Trinidad Ruiz Mares. Maria sold tamales at a street stand in front of a bakery in the Los Portales neighborhood. When the police arrived at her home, they found Maria there. She was ironing clothes when she heard someone knocking at her door. When she opened it, she found the police, who began to question her. They asked her if she was the wife of Pablo, the barber. She said yes. Then they asked her if she knew where he was, to which she replied, "I don't know. He left for work a few days ago and hasn't come back." They asked if she knew where they could find him, and Maria said no. She added that he often disappeared from home for a few days. That's when the authorities informed her that her husband was dead. Maria didn't react at all. A police officer said she seemed indifferent, and it was the first time he had seen a victim's family member react that way. They asked her to come with them to the police station so they could ask her some questions and try to find the person responsible for Pablo's death. They asked her if he had any enemies or if she had any idea what might have happened. She said that in recent weeks she had noticed he was acting pretty strange, nervous, worried, and suspicious. She also mentioned that he had been arrested 3 times for possession of marijuana since he was selling it. After he was arrested on those occasions, he tried to get out of the business, but the people he worked with threatened him, telling him he couldn't leave. But the police couldn't identify these people he supposedly worked with because Maria didn't know their names or who they were. She only knew that she saw them when she went to the wrestling matches. They asked Maria Trinidad if she was having marital problems with Pablo. She stayed silent for a few minutes until, with a trembling voice, she said yes. Maria and Pablo met at the hair salon where Pablo worked. Maria had already been married before, but she got divorced because her first husband cheated on her in their own home. She had 3 children from her previous marriage, whom she brought with her to the hair salon. Pablo hired Maria to do his laundry, since Maria needed to earn more money after her recent divorce, so they saw each other every week when she came to pick up the clothes. During these weekly visits, they started talking more, getting to know each other, and became friends. Soon after, they started a romantic relationship and later moved in together. However, they often fought. One of the main reasons for their arguments was that Pablo didn't like Maria Trinidad's children and sometimes mistreated them. He mentioned that a few days before her body was found, on July 17th, they were arguing. Pablo told her he was going to leave her for another woman. Maria Trinidad was really upset because besides the fact that Pablo hardly worked, he didn't give her any money for the household and even took the money she made from selling tamales, while Pablo spent his money on boxing and wrestling matches. She also said it made her really angry that he hit their children. After she said this, the police officer asked her, "Is that why you killed him?" To which she replied, "Yes, sir, that's why I killed him. He deserved it." She then went on to describe what happened. She said that on that day, Pablo violently beat the children and sent them to bed without dinner. Maria Trinidad confronted Pablo about what he had done, but Pablo just said, "I'm sick and tired of those bratty kids. Get out of here with them. I'll find myself another woman." Around 11:30 that night, Pablo fell asleep while watching TV. Maria stood there watching him, full of rage. She was furious, replaying the argument they had just had in her mind, so she grabbed a bat and hit him on the head. She said this, "I heard him groan, but he couldn't move anymore." Then she hit him on the head again, waited a few moments, and struck him once more to make sure he was dead. But in reality, he was in a coma. Maria acted out of anger. That's why she committed the crime. But then she started to get scared. She didn't think before acting and had no idea what she would do with the body. She remembered she had this big sack and tried to put him in it, but he wouldn't fit. So she grabbed the axe she used for firewood and started cutting off his legs. Pablo was still groaning softly. No one found out about what happened because the children were already asleep and the neighbors didn't suspect a thing, since it was common for Maria Trinidad to make noise at night when she was preparing tamales. Again, Maria tried to put the body in the sack, but it still wouldn't fit. So she cut off his head and put it to boil in one of the pots she used to make tamales. After that, she started cleaning up all of Pablo's blood and any other remains that were left. She changed her clothes and hid her dirty clothes under the mattress. She also thoroughly cleaned the axe and the knife she had used. She hid the body under her bed to get rid of it later. She also cut meat from his legs to later use that meat as filling for the tamales she sold. A lot of people ate human meat without realizing it. At 5 in the morning, Maria put the body in the cart she used to sell tamales and walked all the way to the Justo Sierra neighborhood where she dropped off the sack without anyone seeing her. The officers didn't believe she had done all of this by herself. Even though she confessed and said several times that she had done everything alone, the authorities still didn't believe her, so they arrested her oldest son and her son-in-law, who both said they had no knowledge of what happened. They told Maria Trinidad that she would get 40 years in prison, but if she confessed who her accomplices were, they would reduce her sentence to 20 years. But Trinidad insisted that she had acted alone. The officers weren't satisfied and decided to keep interrogating the oldest son. They even tortured him to try to force a confession, but it didn't work. Maria Trinidad's relationship with Pablo lasted 3 years, which she describes as hell. She also said that Pablo had another woman, and he spent all the money he made from selling tamales on her. Pablo's head was found in Maria Trinidad's house. Later, it was also revealed that there were signs of asphyxiation. Maria Trinidad was arrested after the interrogation. She spent 2 years in jail waiting for her sentence while the trial was underway. The final sentence was 40 years in prison for homicide and desecration of a corpse. She said she never meant to desecrate his body, but she was so scared and didn't know what to do that she tried to get rid of it any way she could. She underwent psychological evaluations to see if Maria Trinidad had any illness or disorder, but the results were negative. Maria was completely sound of mind. What drove her to commit the crime was the anger she felt in the moment, along with a maternal instinct to try to protect her children. After serving part of her sentence, she filed a request to be released before the 40 years were up. For good behavior, she was released, and the first thing she did after leaving prison was go to the Basilica of Guadalupe. She moved to the state of Mexico with some of her relatives and died in 1995. And that was all the information about the case. I think this is a pretty complicated case because, in a way, I feel a bit of empathy for her, since her husband mistreated her, abused her financially, and was very violent with her children. So, on one hand, I understand her, but at the same time, I think the actions she took were really wrong. Not just killing her husband, but also cutting him up and feeding people his flesh. She sold tamales made with her husband's meat, and the people who ate them had no idea they were eating human flesh. Just imagine being one of her customers. Please leave your opinion in the comments section, because I love reading them. Tell me what you thought about the sentence, what you thought about the case in general, and if you think it was right that she got out early. Also, if you have suggestions for other cases, please let me know and I'll be happy to cover them. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed, you should subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!